Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryankaravavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are speaking about tapas, and tapas is mastery of the mind, and we have covered some speech, body, emotions, and self-image. Now, the next part of the verse says, what is the price for not practicing tapas? And he uses the word papa. So suppose all of these points that we mentioned, and we say now, so what? Why should I mention this? Just go to the final knowledge and deliver it. Why should we need to? This is all at the level of the mind, and give us the highest thing. So here it says that you can't think like that, because there's still a human being who is going to go through situations and challenges, and you cannot skip, right, life still delivering all sorts of feedbacks to you. So what's going to happen is you're going to find yourself, suppose, in a tough spot, and then you can't avoid that situation. You can't just, as a human being with a human heart, you can't say, I'm just going to ignore this. I've created this mess, or I was not honest, or I was not communicating, or I was sort of, hiding behind, some feelings. I was not being congruent, and I'm just going to ignore it. It's not possible. You're going to wake up, and it's still going to ruminate in the mind. And that is not pleasant. Right? So this means as long as we do not kind of manage our minds, we have to bear the consequences of having a mind that is not healthy, right? Not keeping with peace, not tranquil, not sort of capable of helping you out in situations. Therefore, you want a mind that is thoughtful, that is discerning, that is sensitive to pick out the subtle nuances, what needs to be done right now, that is focused, such as there's a noise outside, still focused, let the noise go. That mind sits down and pays attention and gets the job done, because it's clever enough to understand, hey, I took my time to be here once a year or whatever. And therefore, I'm going to now have this instrument of mine work for me. I'm going to say, mind, I want you to sit down, pay attention, and let's get some transformation going on. So you are taking ownership of an instrument that's been endowed to you called your mind. That's what tapas helps us. We're all born with this amazing instrument, but none of us are given an instrument of a manual. We're not given a manual, how to manage ourselves manual. So where do we get our instructions from?
Life.
Yeah, start out from parents, which they haven't got instructions from too. From society, from television, from other, school kids, right? They're also part of our journey, our siblings. And there were other teachers also that you learn from, and they too had some wisdom to share, but also some errors that are not well ascertained. And so this all got mixed up, and it was delivered. And now the person's walking around confident, saying things which are not quite ascertained. They're not well thought through. We call this superficial. Thereby, a superficial mind listening to knowledge, what's going to happen to the knowledge? It's going to turn the knowledge into, it's going to take out what I don't like, I don't want this, it doesn't suit me, it's going to let me remain at a simple level. It's too deep for me. It's too advanced, too intellectual. This is not for me. That's why tapas is so important. A qualified, ready, mature, discerning, hardworking, effortful mind. That's what we're given for. And what happens when you have all of these minds come together on a collective? We build amazing instruments. We learn how to defy the laws of gravity and put man on the moon. Another little moon. How to create microprocessors. How to create the first calculator. What? You've got gravel, you've got sand, you've got iron. You take soil, from soil, using a human mind, you create a calculator that's able to calculate numbers. It's amazing. Our minds has done that. Our collective minds has started the revolutions, started wars. That's when the collective has a wrong idea, operates at a superficial level, and then the collective, based on that, there's a papam. So it's a collective papam, consequence. Thereby, the consequences are huge. So now, what it's really saying is, don't say, I am doing good for the world. Are you really doing good for the world? If you analyze your experience. You know, I'm being a good person for the world. Think about this. It sounds beautiful, like really wise, doesn't it? Who are you really doing it for? Who are you being good for? Yourself. Because if you violate, if you go across the boundaries of the laws, who's going to get hurt? You're going to get hurt. So no need to say these things that go in the spiritual world, oh, you're so selfless. I'm giving, I'm selfless. Who are you being selfless for? Why are you being selfless? You're being selfless because it pleases you to be selfless. You are with your husband, your partner, your whoever you are with. Why? For their sake? Did you show up here for my sake? You showed up for your sake. Because you want to learn something, you want to better your life. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Karmanastu, how does it go? Atmanastu Karmaya, Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. Yeah, Atmanastu Kamaya, Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. In other words, we do, well done, Rajeshri, we do everything ultimately for our own sake. This is not selfishness, by the way. Now, what's the difference between doing everything for you? Because this is a fact, a universal fact. You do everything for your own sake. But now, immediately the question is going to follow up. Isn't that selfish? No. Because the word selfless and selfish has a place. So what that means is even though you do everything for your own sake, the level of how I go about doing that, that's what you call selfish or selfless. For example, you are helping others for your sake. That's a fact. You are helping them and you're doing good. In the sense of good, we call it selfless. But other people also do things for their own sake, like driving loud cars, loud music. I don't care about the world, who I hurt. It's all for me. They're also doing the same thing for their sake, but how many people is it really serving? It's only serving themselves. In that sense, we call it selfish. Therefore, you always do things for your own sake. Depending on what I do, it's either selfish or selfless. Some people give charity, anonymous charity, because it makes you feel good, like I'm doing something, I'm capable of giving. That's selfless. Some people go and steal for their sake, once again. That's called selfish, because it's only serving them. Okay? Therefore, the price of not knowing this is, it's going to cost you. There's going to be pain. There's going to be a lack of awareness, lack of sort of, wanting to, wake up, lack of cheerfulness. All of this gets suppressed. You see how you cannot cheat the laws? It's beautiful how the laws are so amazingly set up that even if I can cheat the system, I can lie, I can present myself as some big person, big shot, the laws are designed in such a way that even then, who's going to get hurt? I will get hurt in the long run. If not immediately, certainly in the future. Because as the mind becomes less numb, more sensitive, it starts to go, whoa, all those bad things I've done, now self-esteem starts to go down because I've got all of that track record of lack of humility. I start to remember that, and it now affects me in the future. So the person right now is getting away with it, but who's going to suffer? The person of the future. And who's going to be in that person of the future? The person of the present. That's how the laws are set up. I'm literally creating me in the future, and I'm going to step into the me of the future, and that future me is going to, depending on what I do right now, either enjoy themselves or have papam, consequences that are unpleasant. Who can escape this? Nobody. This is the amazing laws that no one can be outside of because it's all within order of God, Ishvara. Therefore, no one can cheat the system. Okay. Now, the question is, what's the relationship between tapas and knowing who you are, knowing the final reality? Would someone like to try this? What's the relationship between self-mastery of the mind and knowing the reality firmly as it is, without any discrepancies or errors?
If the mind would be calm, then it would be easy to get the knowledge, understand the knowledge.
Good, good.
A calm mind is important.
A calm mind is important, yeah. Okay, anyone else would like?
Without self-mastery of the mind, you cannot go in one step ahead.
Yeah.
How will there is absolutely they are connected. Without self-mastery, how will you even take one step ahead?
Yeah, because the only instrument you have is the mind. Really, it's amazing. The only, as Jen said, now imagine hearing, get rid of your mind, silence your mind. And yet the mind is the only instrument given to us to figure things out. And I'm supposed to now, I came to earth only to eliminate an instrument, the only instrument that I'm really, the greatest blessing. This is how things go wrong. I don't know how, but it's amazing. Therefore, the mind is not to be eliminated, it is to be cleaned up through tapas, to be taken care of, to be nourished, to be nurtured. Like in the Chandogya Upanishad, there's a vessel, 3 vessels, 3 buckets. So suppose we're all buckets now. Hello, buckets. Bucket, I'm also. Okay? And we all have water inside those buckets. And some of us have muddy water with worms and, creepy crawlies. Some of us have clear water, but very ripply, right? And some of us have a very still water in our bucket. Our bucket represents the body and the water, the mind. And one sun, one truth is shining on the 3 buckets. Who's going to recognize the fastest, with most lucidity, the sun? And still, clear and still. Until it's clear and still, one can say whatever they want about the sun, it's not going to be keeping with the sun because of their mind. Disturbed. You can't see the reflection. I kind of see it, but I don't see it. It's as good as not seeing at all. So we're not interested in seeing partial sun. We want to see the full sun as it is. For that, I need a beautiful, clean, relatively clean mind. One caution or note, you're never going to have a perfect mind. That is not possible. That's another notion that goes on in the world. You know, get your mind perfect. There's no, because your mind is designed to change. That which changes cannot be perfect. It's designed to, you know, you will feel disturbed when there is a baby child crying. You will feel disturbed when someone close to you dies. So we're not disconnecting, we're just understanding the mind is meant to change. So in reality, you can't ever stop your bucket. It's always going to move. See, this is the limitation of the example. It's always going to move, but it can be clear enough to capture fullness of who you are. And when that happens, there is no doubts. No doubts about now. What's going on right now? That's why we say the wise person feels home wherever they go. Was it in the Gita, right? In the Bhagavad Gita. I think the wise person, wherever I go, I am at home. Because where is Ishvara not? What's the difference between India and Europe and Australia and wherever you come from? What's the difference? There's just 5 elements, different combinations, permutations, and then you attach a name called India. 5 elements. You attach a name called Indian, European. And yet, we both can go to a doctor and they will treat us just the same. Why? Because there's one creator who created all of us. That's why you can go to the most racist doctor ever, and they will know exactly where your spleen, kidneys, where your lungs are, because it is one God in whom all of this was created. They can have whatever ideas they want. No, my God's better than yours. But ultimately, if that was true, then gods would disagree with each other. So we would have our organs all over the place, different organs. But we don't. One creator. Now the question is, or the verse states, who has reduced, who is this eligible person? This is a slightly different topic now. Who is this eligible person? And it says, vitaraginam, the person who has gotten rid of their likes and dislikes. Now, this is a very interesting statement because you have likes for things, right? You have likes for music and, you know, and good food and, you know, moksha and spirituality. You have likes for that, yeah. You have likes for liking, likes for love and being in the presence of socializing, yeah. Now it says here, the one who has reduced that. Now, this is a really funny, interesting statement because it means I'm supposed to now kind of reduce my contact with people. So we need to analyze this. It says, not that likes and dislikes are your enemies because they end up serving the society. The doctor, for example, has a like for treating patients. That's a blessing, isn't it, for the rest of us? So we can't now say the doctor should eliminate his or her likes or dislikes because then the society falls. Rather, he wants to point out is that the word binding. So what are now binding likes and dislikes and ordinary likes and dislikes? Binding likes and dislikes do not allow you to express yourself freely because they bind you. They create one door, one opportunity, one possibility, and that's all that is possible. Nothing else. So in a sense, if you have a binding like this has to happen, you know, it cannot be any other way. I want it to be like this. That whole thing, that's called binding like or dislike. In other words, I cannot get myself to be compatible with anything except this style, this way of communicating, this way of presenting, this way of receiving, this way of living. What does that do? Yeah, we're giving so much chance, so much opportunity, and yet we just say it has to be like this. So now we end up limiting ourselves through our own binding likes and dislikes. So who is an adhikari? The one who has reduced binding likes and dislikes. So my question is now, what are your binding likes and dislikes? Think about it. In relationships, where there's a must, it has to be like this. How about relationships? How about in learning? Like I have to hear in this particular way. How about friends? You know, my friends should only be like this. Someone should only look at me like this. They should speak to me like this. They should show respect to me. If they don't, I don't want to be with them. Huh? Food?
Any special liking to food.
Yeah, food should only be like this, right? If it's slightly different, that's a good one, right? More salt, right? More spice. And it causes inconvenience for others too.
Less spice.
Less spice, yeah. So this means, right, we need to be a little bit more flexible with ourselves. It's like with Duryodhana, he's only got a like for power. Power and Indraprastha, I want to expand my territory. I got like for power. Relinquish a little bit, please. Give back to your cousins. No. What does that do? Creates the entire war. In fact, we could say that most of the wars in the world are created through binding likes and dislikes of a nation. A certain political values are carried, and they said, no, we don't want any other way. We stand for what we stand for. And slowly, conflict gets risen, and then one nation starts to become a part of that, and now you have, a war. One who's reduced. And what kind of things do binding likes and dislikes create? Anger, disappointment, right? Conflicts. So the question is, sometimes we think we need to eliminate all of our likes and dislikes. I've heard this before. Some lady emailed me and she says, "Hey, I've been hearing this teacher. I don't know who they are, but they said you got to eliminate all of your likes and dislikes. Otherwise, you can't get moksha." It's quite a common thing actually here. And I says, no, you don't, because likes and dislikes will always persist, right? They're part of your life. The question is, why do people think you got to eliminate and be this desireless, totally neutral, right, equanimous jnani? You know this? Why? Well, if you look at a little order, we can say that we got likes, so binding likes and dislikes. And what do they create? They create, you could say, distortions about everything.
Manipulations.
Manipulations, distortions. So distortions create, right, manipulation. Okay, and that leads into conflict. Conflict leads into suffering. Okay, so now you say, to get rid of my suffering, I have to eliminate my likes and dislikes. So that's the conclusion people make. But actually, the verse says reducing binding. Likes and dislikes. Without the binding, you take the binding away, likes and dislikes become blessings.
Can enjoy and make a festive life.
Yeah, you can make festivities, you can celebrate life without the binding and without the binding part to it. You can play nice music, you can be an entertainer, a singer, you can provide services for people, you can do whatever you wish. So this is the vision of the whole Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. No question of eliminating anything because they are an empirical reality. We're all born with a certain strength. That strength comes out as a like for teaching. If we don't have teachers, right, they all like teaching. That's why teachers teach, because they like teaching. Then we would be who? Totally uneducated right now. Therefore, likes and dislikes are embellishments of life. They are glories of Ishvara. They're not our enemies at all. The binding part is the distortion. That is to be reduced. Now, how do you reduce binding likes and dislikes?
First, you have to discern them.
You have to discern them. You have to recognize what is the cost. What is the pain? What's the long-term cost of doing this over and over and having these specific rules that I'm setting for him, for her, for this or that? Rigid rules. Rigid, we could say binding are rigid rules. Okay? Which violates one of those initial assuming, having expectations, assuming intentions, all of that, rigid rules creates a binding.
They narrow you, actually.
It narrows you down, yeah. So you're this huge, expensive human being, and I just turn myself into one single possibility. And then we say, that's who I am. This is how we fool ourselves. So, likes and dislikes are our friends. Because if you don't have a like for moksha, then are you ever going to attain moksha? No. So we have to have a like for freedom. So moksha is freedom from inadequacy, freedom from a sense of smallness, freedom from from suffering, from rebirth, freedom from time and space, freedom from being somebody, freedom from this localized individual here, not over there, freedom from limited knowledge, freedom from limited power. All of this freedom I am free of. That's what moksha is. Freedom from limitation. That's what likes and dislikes do for us. And dislikes are also a blessing because we have dislikes for things that are no longer useful for us. That's a blessing. Where's the question of eliminating? Thank God we have a dislike for what? Girls and boys, right? The whole thing. Toys. Dislike for toys.
Mukshu, liking or seeking moksha, can be called binding to a certain extent.
A mumukshu?
Yeah, mukshu seeking moksha, or like seeking the enlightenment, going down that spiritual path.
Yeah.
Is it somewhat binding? Because of intense desire.
Okay. That's a good question. It could be, but it's a good binding. It's a binding that you want to have because it's helping you. Yeah, because it's but it's a kind of a different binding. It's a more of an intelligent discernment that all other things are not really giving me what I want. So the only possible solution is to pursue something bigger. I don't know what that bigger is, but something bigger. So in a sense, I can't put it into a binding category, but more of a discernment and a maturity. For example, you have, you got binding for, can you say it's binding for eating? You just got to do what you got to do. Binding for loving another person? Is that binding? If you love someone? No, you just love them. It's not binding. In fact, love is just letting them be who they are. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so these distortions, what other distortions are there? Well, one of the distortions that gets created with a non-discerning mind is, for example, I am away from Ishvara. Or when in fact you and Ishvara are one. Another distortion is you are, I am the witness of my thoughts. You hear this before? I am the witness of my thoughts. Really? You're the witness of your thoughts. Where is a question of distance between thoughts and you? How can you be a witness of your thoughts? This is all preliminary understanding, these kind of language words. I witness the thoughts. I am one thing, thoughts are another thing. Okay, this is preliminary. We'll talk about this coming up soon. There's no space between you and thoughts. All that is here is one. There's nothing to witness. Then there's a witnesser and there's the witnessed, two things. Okay? So,
But Vedanta says I am different from thoughts.
yeah, I am different from thoughts. However, it's a very subtle distinction there. It's a prakriya to say I am different, but you have to get rid of that prakriya because it's still keeping you in a kind of a partial understanding. Okay? Because all that is here is one. That's the final truth. And we will collapse those differences coming up. Yeah. So what are the eligibilities for moksha according to the verse? Well, the first one is you need a clear mind. The second is you need knowledge to see that you are already free. And third, for that knowledge to take place, you need a refined mind. You see the connection? I'm seeking freedom. To understand the whole thing, I need knowledge. For that knowledge to take place, I need a refined mind. So this is all adhikari. Next, we're still on Anubandha Chatushtaya, yeah? Fourfold ticks. So tick 1, done. The second tick is Vishaya. Vishaya in English is subject matter. What's the topic? What is taught? What's taught here? Atma Bodha, the knowledge of the self. Now, for a mumukshu, they have figured out that security, wealth, and ethics are not going to kind of help me gain what I want. They understand that much. But they haven't figured out what is required for moksha. Okay? So they will not kind of connect to the topic because they will connect to what kind of topic? Yoga, theta healing, this, that, right? So they will connect to all kinds of topics. Slowly, slowly, as the mumukshu gets clearer and clearer, they understand, yoga is not going to really help me, it's going to clear up my mind. This is not going to help me, it's going to clear up my mind. That's not going to help me, it's going to clear up my mind. What I really need is knowledge. Now, Vishaya, the subject matter, becomes important. Whereas before, you present Atma Bodha to an adhikari or a non-adhikari, and what do? No thanks. Give me techniques. Give me band-aids. Make me feel good. Touch my heart. Band-aids. Give me band-aids, 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 band-aids. Very easy. Now, having become an adhikari, a qualified recipient, I'm able to understand the relevance of the subject matter and connect with it. Atma Bodha, knowledge of the self. Now, I want to ask a question. What's the difference between Atma Bodha and common spirituality? What is common spirituality? Where is their starting point in basic ground level spiritual search? Where is their starting point?
There's a God and you.
Huh?
There's a God and you.
There is a God and you, God. And you are sort of, two different things, perhaps. What else is the common starting point?
The body mind sitting here is the central goal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there will, it's body mind, please the body mind, or in some different ways, give it an experience, feed it experiences, right?
Experience versus knowledge. Atma Bodha is talking about knowledge, and everything else is talking about experience.
Good. Now, because everything else is talking about experience, how can you ever do an action? Because what produces an experience? An action. Can you have an experience without an action? No. So if you want an experience, you have to do an action. Okay? Now, how long is an action going to last that you do? As long as it lasts. 5 minutes? 1 hour? 5 hours? So if it's 5-hour action, what kind of a experience is it going to produce? 5 hours worth of experience. So if I meditate for 5 minutes, what are my benefits? 5 minutes worth of benefits. If I meditate for 2 hours, what are my benefits? 2 hours worth of meditation. So every action produces a limited experience. Is this clear? Suppose you now counter me and you say, no, an action can produce a limitless experience. Suppose you say that. Then I would say, how is that possible? Because every action that you do is always bound to just itself. One action is not another action. Okay? So look at this. What do you want? Limitlessness, infinity, okay? I want infinity. Now, what will I do to get infinity? I will do action A for, suppose, 5 minutes. Okay. So not only is action A not action B, but also 5 minutes is different from 10 minutes. You see the limitation of action? So it's limited by time, and it's not another kind of action. So now, because the action itself is limited, how can it produce a limitless, eternal result?
But suppose you talk to your therapist and he or she helps you suddenly see some misunderstanding
Yeah.
or something you never saw before, and for the rest you enter a different life or
Yeah.
a different energy.
Yeah, and how long would that last? That's the thing. It's because that therapist applied an action onto you that lasted forever, right? And that therapist applied this action and not another kind of action. So whatever action they gave you, it produced a result. But if they gave you a different kind of action, it would have produced a different kind of result. And whatever result it produces, how long is it going to last?
Yeah, hopefully forever.
Has that ever happened? That's how we all like to think. Hopefully.
Yeah.
We talk in hopes.
I really like growing as a person. Of course, if you do an action, you can grow as a person. And but it's an ever-evolving thing of moments. It changes all the time.
It's time
Yeah,
bound.
yeah,
So it's never
it
it's
can
never
come up in a
infinity.
different coating.
Yeah, and also they give you some experience, how are you going to operate, in the world? You come over to your husband or whatever, and then like you're a changed person, I can't relate to you anymore, you're not connecting to me, you're so happy now, it's like you don't need me anymore, you're totally independent, and now they kick you out, and they're your one who supports you with the money, and now you're back into depressed mode because you got no job. So in real life, even if someone gives you an experience, you wake up and you've got a sore pain now in your back. That negates your whatever benefits you've got. You negated your benefits. You're tired now. How long can you stay awake? Sharp. Like morning sharp. How long can that be? Very short. Even if you get a pill, it's very short. And not only that, suppose you still doubt this and you say, no. A action can give you a limitless result, an infinity. Suppose you want to say that. Then my question is, who got that? Who got that result?
Limited being.
A limited person. So no matter how much limitless benefits you dump onto a limited person, who's the ultimate benefactor? Who's ultimately the center of one's life? You are. So this you are remains still limited despite all of these actions coming your way, no matter how limitless they are. So what is Atma Bodha showing you? What's the nature of the person is already limitless. And that can only be discovered through knowledge. So what's the difference between common spirituality and Atma Bodha? The starting point of Atma Bodha says you are already free. You're already free, infinite. That's a fact. And it's a matter of discovering that. Whereas common spirituality starts with you're small and I'm going to feed you actions to make you bigger. How long that lasts is none of my business. But I'm going to charge you $1,000, which is what they did a lot in the 1970s and 80s. I'll put something in your food. And then you're going to love me for that. Because the guru gave you a tangible experience. Yeah. Therefore, no amount of limited actions is ever going to produce a limitless result. Because limited action plus limited action plus limited action plus limited action plus limited action, if they all produce limited results, then how many limited actions do you have to keep adding to get a limitless result? 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. How many times do you have to keep on doing that until you come to infinity? You're going to be here for lifetimes. And we're trying to get out of the whole lifetime thing. So Atma Bodha slices and dices through this nonsense of here's an action and I'm going to make you limitless. Okay. So that's Vishaya. So I'll just spell out Vishaya. So Adhikari is number 1. That means one who's ready. And then number 2 is Vishaya. Vishaya. That means subject. Subject matter. Okay? Third one is Prayojanam. Prayojanam. In English, it just means simple. What's the benefit? What is the benefit that I will gain from this text? This is very important because scientifically, scientific studies show, even memory, if you don't make something relevant, your brain is going to discard it. That's just how we are evolved evolutionary. That's how we're wired. If it's not relevant, if I don't see the relevance, my mind will discard it. So the question is, how do you make something relevant to your life? Answers. How do you make something relevant to your brain?
You should recognize the value.
Recognize the value. Okay, good. Good. What else? How do you...
Practicing daily. Practice.
Okay, practice, because to practice lets your brain know that it's important enough to give it some time.
Yeah, repetition.
Repetition, yeah, because
Permanency. Whether it is permanent or not, we can judge.
I mean, the question is, how do I tell my brain, whether it's permanent or temporary? Yeah, okay, so maybe if I got this right, you tell yourself that the results are huge, right? They're massive results, maybe. Tell your brain this is important, this is extremely important for my well-being. How else do you make something relevant in your life?
Feelings in your mind.
Feedback, okay, you speak it to your mind, yeah.
So maybe you see why is this person so happy?
Huh?
You can ask a person who's so happy, why are you so happy?
Yeah, okay.
Like it's
Yeah, you're curious, yeah. So you're curious enough to ask. You value their happiness enough to ask. That means you value happiness. Okay.
So finally, it's the value that you accord to the particular things makes it relevant to you. If you value something, then that means that is relevant to you.
Yeah.
You put in the efforts to add more value.
Ah, that's very nice. Did you hear that? In other words, you deliver what you value to other people. You present that to other people. You give some to other people. What does that say? Let's say you value this so much that you don't care if your time is wasted. That's the power of giving. There's no.
It's the experience that it works. I mean, reading the text and contemplating on it, it makes me look at situations differently, and it's a direct experience also.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It's not a limitless one yet, but to see that the framing of my life shifts in a way that I could never have imagined.
Okay.
That makes me keep me on the road.
Okay. So experience also, if we, especially if we look into our experience and you see how it's transformed your life for the better, then you see, it's really kind of offloaded this, baggage off my shoulders. I'm not as sort of confined as I thought I was. That's the beauty of having these, experiences once in a while. We're not discarding them at all.
No, but I just mean also daily experiences.
Daily experiences is the same.
So it works in every small item.
Yeah.
To see it working.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So the question again is, how do you make something so relevant to your brain that you are willing to focus for 2 hours? I tell you, concentration is not an issue. Everyone's got concentration. Men can play poker for how long? Or cards? Hours. And they can't listen to their spouse for 5 minutes. Why? Because they value poker, that whole brotherhood. We're in our world. I tell you, you can concentrate. Just need to help yourself see what will it take for my brain to get switched on. That potential is already in you right now. But we don't ask the question. I want us to start asking the question, how do I get my brain working to switch on, to deliver maximum focus and attention and input? It's possible, I tell you. It's absolutely possible. That's what all these memory studies are about that.
Happiness and satisfaction will make you more focused.
Yeah, it will. But so that means you need tapas, of course. You need to make your life, simpler, leess stress, more kind of, welcoming, more cheerful. So it's a process.
Train, brain.
Training.
Yeah.
Okay. All of this. Again, this is such an important question. Have you ever asked this to yourself?
Please repeat the question again.
The question is, what would make this topic, what do I have to do to make this topic extremely relevant for me? Where it's a matter of life or death. The moment you do that, I tell you, your brain is switched on. Because we don't do this, we come into the class and we listen to audios and videos half alert. And then we say, oh, I'm not receiving anything. I'm not learning. It's possible.
Isn't that the whole reason that we started to be a seeker anyway? Because there's some deep feeling, it could be better. Because it is better than we
Yeah.
experience.
And that's Ishwara's
Then
program.
The
Yeah.
mind wants something noble to do, actually.
Yeah.
You don't feel really happy. It's, everything is like,
Yeah. And
it's sublime. The mind becomes happy.
And we're
Some
programmed.
inner feeling that if we learn this, we will get that satisfaction or happiness. Somewhere, some deep conscious mind,
Yeah.
feel that contentment.
You feel that contentment, yeah. And that reinforces you, gives you more joy, motivation to do it next time.
But it's not making me feel like life and death. That thing is not coming. That how would it be so relevant to me that if I don't do this, it's like life and death. Like
I mean,
that
okay,
type of
yeah.
feeling, how to get that feeling?
Okay, I'm not going to answer this. It's up to you to discover.
By practice.
I think you will become very unhappy. Maybe.
This is what a mumukshu is. They figured this much out. They recognize the limitations of objects. No amount of object is going to give me what I'm really seeking. I've already done this before. I've already been married and been this and had this all for lifetimes. What's the point of just another, one life of the same? How is that going to change anything? You've already experimented every possible option. You've been already everything. You've already played out every role imaginable. And what has that given you? One more body. So now the person starts to say, hey, I've done so much. Let me come to the real thing. Let me come to the knowledge that sets me free finally, once and for all. It's an example. It's up to you to discover what is your strategy for making things extremely relevant. That's how learning takes place. I'll tell you this. We say we're bad at names, right? Remembering names. Okay? Yeah? Bad at names. Suppose I say, if you can remember 20 names by tonight, I will give you $1 million.
Incentive.
Could you do it? Yes. You will find a strategy to do it. Out of nowhere. It's already there. You have to discover it.
Incentive.
Because the incentive is so huge and that becomes so clear and it's impacting you everywhere throughout your core. That's what we're talking about. Vishaya. Not Vishaya, Prayojana. What's the benefit? And finally, Sambandha. Now, Sambandha is just the connection between the teaching and the benefit. So what's the connection between the teachings of Atma Bodha and the benefit? Well, simple. Atma Bodha can help me free myself from a sense of inadequacy, from a sense of smallness. Now, the relevance becomes one notch higher. This text can help me out. Therefore, now you're like, okay, let's pay attention. Okay.
It would be like, this is my last chance.
Yeah, it's your last chance, right? Nothing after. That's what I'm talking about. That's life or death. Okay.
That is the answer I give you.
May I ask you this question? When the recognition of the fact that everything is limited, there's no joy and security, and this burning, then you got Vedanta presented, this burning desire, immediately for you, or because this is sometimes we talk about this.
Right.
Why we know the fact that what samsara is, and we know Vedanta, but really to say this is a question about life and death, what you brought the example now with the $1 million.
Yeah.
This popped up immediately in you when you realized this, and then kept you going and studying for day and night.
It's a good question. So I think what Jens is asking is, once you recognize the limitations of objects and their right capacity to give you joy, which is not that much, right? Do you suddenly overnight change, right, into this burning desire for moksha? In my experience, no. I don't think it's like that. Does anyone have that? Like one night you're like this, next night? I think it's a growing clarity, Jens. I really do.
It can differ in every person.
It can differ, yeah. I really can't put like an absolute to that.
A deep crisis can help.
A deep crisis can help.
I don't want this and never anymore.
Yeah,
It can evoke a force in you.
It can, yeah.
Like these kind of things.
Yeah.
Buddha suddenly he got vairagya, dispassion. From a king he became.
Right.
No, it was not sudden. It was from
after so many years. Yeah.
very early age he was like that. From very early age he didn't know the meaning of meditation, but as a child also he would just sit under the tree and close his eyes. It was not, he has been contemplating about it a lot, but then when he saw the suffering of the people, that was just a catalyst.
Yeah, he was
But it
born
was
into a
not-
royal family.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it was not
He
all of a
never
sudden.
saw suffering.
He
Then
never
once he saw suffering,
Yeah.
then the question came
But
into
the-
his mind.
Slowly,
that
slowly
seed
kept
was-
building up.
The seed was already there, implanted from the birth itself.
Right. And then when he posed that question, then the question started to build up and build up and build up. So it's a build up, yeah.
And after the question also he did a lot of things. Then finally he went into the meditation and whatever.
Yeah. So this is it.
He also tried fasting, no food, no water, everything. That by doing this will I get enlightenment, but no, he didn't get.
Yeah.
Finally he went into this, whatever
Yeah.
the process was.
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of a nice journey of trying different things, and that's a mumukshu, not working, not working, not working. Finally, meditation, knowledge, and it worked. Yeah.
Vedanta tells us, you go through the steps of hearing, shravanam, then
Mm.
there is mananam and nididhyasam. So there is no quick solution. I think one has to first listen and then appropriate to oneself
Yeah.
where we are, and only if we are convinced intrinsically, we will really adapt to it. And so that needs a lot of effort on ourselves to play around with it and give it the colorings that suit me.
Mm.
And if I am convinced, then yes, I'm ready to experiment it. So I
Mm.
think there's
Mm.
a lot of personal involvement.
Mm.
And without
Mm.
that, having the best gurus does not work.
Does not work.
If I'm
Yeah.
not yet ready,
Yeah.
and the thirst is really not there, I
Yeah.
will not get on to the next step.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how many variables they all come together to make this burning desire, this kind of a person.
Is this desire connected to that from a very early age you wonder like what the hell is going on here? What is life all about?
Yeah,
Is there a connection?
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, but then they get suppressed, right, by the society, and they say we don't need these questions, how to make money and so on. So maybe there's a child naturally wants to discover, curious, and we get shut down. And so it can definitely help us if we live in that.
But Atma Bodha does not speak of that.
It doesn't, it speaks of, what's required to resurface that curiosity, resurface that, clarity that's going to make you see, what needs to be done to ascertain the final knowledge. Yeah, so it definitely clears up our mind. At least verse 1 does.
Could be a part of the karma, your punya from the past life.
Yeah, true, because, some people, two siblings, right? They get born in the same family, same opportunities, same education, same school, same parents. One of them goes into the, funny things. The other one just starts to ask questions about life and suffering, and they just look at spirituality and just innocently attracted. Karma, past life, could be. See how much takes place to come to this knowledge. It's amazing. Yeah. And crisis, like Simon said, some deep crisis, or maybe you're very successful. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.